Okay, this video is about another way of doing a pause. Now this pause will only work with GameMaker 8.1. It will not transfer over to Studios. They took out the caption for making a custom message box for saving and resuming, or not saving, but to resume game. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So, and then I'm also going to talk about a timer. But this timer, I tried three different ways to do a timer for first-person shooter, and it will not work with the load. So I would suggest if you want a timer in the game, do it only with your boss. So meaning you could have three. For example, you could have 3 rooms, right? The second room would save with no timer. The third room would have a timer in it with the boss. So if you were to die playing the boss, then you would load up to the second room, play the second room again, and then go and play the boss in the third room with the timer. So that's the only way you could pretty much do a timer in a first-person shooter game. It's for some reason it throws up an error every time you load it. It doesn't load the timer. So I would suggest to do it only with the boss. And when you play the boss, have a timer in it, and then when the timer runs out, then it would go to in-game or something. So I'm going to show you that in a minute. So start. Okay, so the first thing here I'm going to talk about, you see the top, there's a timer counting down, but the first thing I'm going to show you is the pause. Press the P button on your keyboard and the pause comes up. This pause should be more in the center here, but since I have it, I guess the window reduced down, it's not showing it in the center for some reason, this message box. So you're able to resume, and then the timer counts down and the doors not the doors, but the slicers shut and open again. Resume. So that message box here will only work with GameMaker 8.1. It will not work with Studios. I don't know, Studios took it out for some reason. I'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, and then okay, so let me talk about the pause and then I'll talk about the timer. So in the first room here, you have these blocks right here. So you have display, pause. So this display is going to be the image hot box that comes up that says resume game. Then you have the timer, of course, and you have the first pause, which has the code in it to show that display message. So in the display, it's not visible, and I just made a box so you can see it on the screen here. Probably could have an object name and leave this as a sprint with no name on it to make it a question mark if you wanted to. Okay, so went to add event, did a create, then I put in a coded sheet here, and it says message underscore background parenthesis display area, which is I'll show you that in a minute. That's in the background folder, and then the message underscore button. This is the button image of what you want to look like. And so this code right here is not in Studios. For some reason they took this code out. It does not work in GameMaker Studios. It only works in GameMaker 8.1. So there's a lot more you can do with first-person shooter with GameMaker 8.1 than you can with Studios, that I'm aware of, anyways. So, but this is one thing you can't do with so the other pause I talked about in my previous video, you should be able to do that with Studios, where you press the pause button and the screen goes black. You press R to resume, and then it goes back to where you were originally. That should work with Studios. But this message box for the Pulse will only work for GameMaker 8.1. It will not work with Studios because this code is not in. They took this code out for some reason in Studios. I guess it doesn't work for some reason. Okay, so this will make the backdrop for your display. Show you an image with the pause and the button. So in the backgrounds here, I say display area. This is the image box that's going to come up. It's going to show Fake 3D. That's the title of the game. This black right here, I painted on here so you can see the pause that pops up on here. GameMaker does that automatically. You could probably change the font to make it bigger if you wanted to, and then the buttons over here displays right here in this location. It's just a image I made up in Photoshop and position it just right so the text goes in that location. The text goes in that location because that's how GameMaker sets it up. So that's how I set my image up. And then you could potentially make a new font here to make the font bigger if you wanted to, or even change the name of the font here to something else, to change it to a heavier font or more fancy font or something. Alright, so that's the first thing. It projects that image box with the button. Alright, the second thing is the code for the button. So it's called Object First Pause right here. Alright, so you go to edit event, go to key press, go to letter, and then you can't see it on the screen here, but you go to P for pause, and then coded sheet, and then this is the menu screen that comes up. Menu equals show underscore message underscore ext. It's going to present the game pause title. Now you got to have these parentheses in here because originally there was 3 items up here. There was a resume, a quit, and a restart. The restart didn't work in first-person shooters, so I took it out. So I just added the quotation marks here because otherwise GameMaker will throw an error if you don't have these quotation marks in here. See, it shows the error. So you gotta it somehow it needs 3 spaces, but I just made these quotation marks here to get rid of the error. So it's only going to show game pause and resume. Then if menu equals 1, it's going to, if sound exists, it's going to pretty much stop the sound. It's going to stop the background sound, and it's going to stop the rain sound for the second room. And then you got if menu equals 1. 1 means the resume. It's going to resume the game. All right, so this is all the code you need for it to pause and then resume. Like I said, the restart didn't work. That's why I took it out. What would happen is when you press restart, it wouldn't take all the. I would collect my crystal and my gun and all that stuff, and it would not take that out of my inventory for some reason. It would keep it in there, and that's not right. It should restart everything. The only thing it did was it restarted the sound, it restarted my position in the game, but it didn't take out my inventory, so I took it out because restart didn't work. And I took out the quit because you can press escape to a quit, so I took that out too. So all it's going to do is pause the game, and you can click on the button to resume. That's what it's talking about right here. So that's the code to get the pause to work in GameMaker 8.1, not Studios. Like I said in my previous video, the black screen for the pause, that should work in Studios. Alright, and then in the second room, then I press the load button, and it's going to load the message underscore background display, and it's going to load the message button display. This button right here is in the sprint location. sprints. And I'm not sure where I put it at. I know it's in the sprint somewhere here. Right here. That's not the button I used. I used the second one. No, that's the second one. I didn't use the second one here. I used the first one. So SBR block 1. This is how the button's going to look for the background anyways for the button. And like I said, the game maker is going to project the text on top, which is going to be resume. Alright, and that's all you need. So that's going to display the pause message box for the second room. And when you click on the load button, this code has to be in there. Otherwise, it's not going to. When you press P on your keyboard, it's not going to come up on screen. So you need this code in here for the load for that to pop up. And I think that's all you need for the second room. Oh, and also I had to put the code in there for when the game saves. So in the game saves, you also have to put the pause code in there. Okay. And then after so many seconds, the game save in green is going to blink and go away and switch to object not shown. So in object not shown, you also have to make sure that's not visible. You also got to put the P in there for keyboard and put the code in there for the pause. Because for some reason, when I went to the second room, after I loaded up in the second room, game saved in green did not go away for some reason. There was a glitch in it, so I had to kind of then I had it, because I think I had it set to be deleted after 10 milliseconds, but it didn't work, so I had to do a switch image. So if you want to do a pause right away when the game blinks, game saved in green, then you can, because the code's in there. And then when it switches after 10 milliseconds, it's going to switch to object not shown, which is going to be the object in red here is game saved, but it's not going to be visible because you don't want to see the game saved in green keep blinking. So after 10 milliseconds, it's going to change to this object image not shown, and it's also going to allow you to do the, when you press P, it'll present the it'll present the resume display. And if you don't have this code in here, then it's not going to work. It's not going to show you're not going to be able to pause the game. And that has to be in there, otherwise it's not going to work. And the funny thing is when you go to the second room, before you press the load to go to the second room, it works fine. But when you load it, you have to actually have that code in there for the display. Otherwise, like I said, it won't come up. The display won't come up to pause the game. Alright, so that's the pause. Now I'll talk about the timer. The timer. Now in the timer I have it shown in the first room, just to give you an example of what it looks like. Now I'm going to change this minutes to 0 and change the seconds to 5, just to show you what happens after 5 seconds. Then I'll explain the timer. But after 5, you would have it for like 10 minutes or whatever, but just to give you an example of what it does. So it's going to count down, pause it, but you can resume. Let's count down to, then it goes to game over. So that's what's going to happen when you play the boss and you run out of time. It's going to go to the game over room. And like I said, do this only for the boss. Do not do it for the other rooms, because for some reason when you click on the load button, it throws an error for the timer. So I would only do it for the boss. And this seems to be an issue with the fake first-person shooter games. I mean, it works fine for like like scroller games, like Mario, where you can put the timer in there for each room and it worked fine. But with first-person shooters, it doesn't work. All right, so in the object timer, do a create, do a code. Then you're going to put the seconds in here, so how many seconds you want. So I'm putting 0, 0. How many minutes you want, 0, 0. And how many hours you want, 0, 0. But actually I put this to 10 minutes. Then it's going to go to alarm 0, room speed. Then alarm 0, because that's what it said there. It goes to alarm 0. So add event, alarm 0. Another code. Then basically all this code right here is going to state that it's going to count down every second until it has no more seconds left, and then it's going to go to room go to end game. So after you have no more minutes or seconds left, it's going to go to in-game room, and then you're done with the game. That's pretty much what this information is talking about. And then you have to draw it out. You're drawing out the hours, the minutes, and the seconds, and then the draw text. This is the position of where you want the text to be positioned at on screen. The X view and Y view. Y is going to be up and down. X view is straight across, horizontal. Y view is up and down, vertical. And then you're going to have your text, your font size, and I just chose font 0. You could choose a color, but then it's going to change your color for your gun weapons for some reason. I don't know how to make two different types of colors for GameMaker. It's 8.1. I know with Studios you could put the color in the code here, and it would give you a different color for your text, for your weapons or your timer. It would give you two different colors. But for GameMaker 8.1, you put the text in there for a color, and it changes the color on all of them for some reason. So I just left the white. You could give it a background if you wanted to for the timer. Like I said, you basically just do a draw and a step event, just like I did for these images here on screen, to make a background color for your timer, and put it at the correct location for the X and Y coordinates. So that's it. That's all you do with the timer. But like I said, I would not put the timer in the first room. So this timer would actually go in with the boss. Do not put it in the first or second room. Well, if you want to put it in the first room, you probably could, but just do not put it in the second room, because you're going to load it up. And then if you load it up, then it's going to throw an error. But I would just put it in the boss location to make it more challenging, more to you. Put the timer in there for the boss. So when you press the load button, it wouldn't load up in the boss location. It would load up in the second or third room, whatever. And you have to beat the third or second room first. Then you play the boss. Then it would have the timer. All right, and that's pretty much it for this. And one thing I didn't talk about, which I don't know how to do, I try to mess with it, is the cursor for the pause. So when you press P, see how it's back to the regular cursor? I don't know how to make it back to the custom cursor. I don't know. It doesn't. I tried it. It doesn't work. I tried to use. I went into. There's an extra. There's a cursor here. Set cursor. And I changed the image to my custom cursor, and it doesn't work for some reason. So it only works on the main screen. So I don't know why it's not working. Yep, and that's pretty much it. So I'll upload this video and this game file here, and you can mess around with the codes and the timers and the pause and everything. Thanks for watching.